You know what destroys more love stories than betrayal, than distance, than differences? It's not what you might expect. It's the silent killer, the invisible storm inside your own head. It's overthinking, that endless loop of questions. Does he still care? Why hasn't she replied yet? What if I'm not enough? What if this ends tomorrow? Those spirals don't just eat away at your peace, they choke the very love you're trying to protect. The truth is, most relationships don't collapse because of lack of love. They collapse because one or both partners can't escape the prison of their own mind. And if you've ever been caught in that storm, you know the pain. You replay every text, you analyze every silence, you attach meaning to every delay. You suffocate the relationship not because you want to, but because fear tricks you into believing you have to control what you cannot control. Your thoughts are not facts. This is one of the most liberating realizations you can ever bring into your life, and especially into your relationships. The mind is a storyteller, and when emotions like fear, insecurity, or doubt fuel it, those stories feel so real that you begin to confuse them with reality. You get a late reply to a message, and instantly your brain whispers, "She's not interested anymore." Your partner seems quiet one evening, and suddenly your mind screams, "He's pulling away." These thoughts feel convincing, almost undeniable, but that does not make them the truth. They are only guesses, interpretations, assumptions, and yet we treat them as evidence. That is the trap of overthinking in love. The human brain is wired to protect us. Thousands of years of evolution trained it to look for danger, to anticipate threats, to overanalyze patterns in order to keep us safe. But in the modern world, those same instincts work against us, especially in love. When there is no real tiger chasing you, your brain invents tigers out of delayed texts, unread messages, or moments of silence. You then start reacting to these illusions as if they were reality. You get anxious, distant, demanding, or cold, not because of what your partner actually did, but because of the story your mind made up about it. The problem with believing every thought is that you hand over your peace and your love life to fear. Imagine living in a house where every shadow convinces you there is a thief. You would never relax, never feel safe, never enjoy the home you are in. That is exactly what happens in relationships when you trust every thought. You stop enjoying the love you actually have because you are too busy battling enemies that only exist in your imagination. The truth is, thoughts are like clouds drifting across the sky. Some are light, some are dark, but none of them define the sky itself. Your mind will always generate doubts, questions, and what ifs. That's its job. But you don't have to hold on to them as if they are facts. You can observe them, question them, and let them pass. Instead of saying, "He didn't text me back, so he must not care," you can pause and remind yourself, this is just a thought, not a fact. That simple pause creates space, and in that space, love can breathe again. Once you stop mistaking thoughts for truth, you begin to see your partner more clearly. You listen to their actions instead of your fears. You respond to their real energy instead of your imagined stories. And most importantly, you regain your peace because you realize the war was never with them, it was always in your own mind. Love needs presence, not control. This is where most people get it wrong in relationships. Out of fear of losing the person they love, they grip tighter, analyze harder, and try to predict and manage every possible outcome. They believe that if they can just understand every detail, anticipate every change in mood, or decode every silence, they will somehow protect the relationship from falling apart. But the paradox is that the tighter you hold, the quicker love slips away. Love cannot breathe when suffocated by control. It thrives only when there is space, freedom, and trust. Presence is about being fully here, right now, without projecting fears of the future or dragging wounds of the past into the moment. When you are present with your partner, you listen to them not to prepare your defense, but to understand. You share moments not as a transaction of security, but as an experience to cherish. Control, on the other hand, comes from fear. It whispers, if I don't manage this, if I don't monitor their actions, if I don't overanalyze, I might lose them. That fear-driven mindset builds walls between you and the person you love because instead of connecting with them, you are busy managing them. Think of love as holding a bird in your hands. If you grip it too tightly, trying to keep it safe, you will harm it. If you open your hands and let it rest freely, it stays because it feels safe, not trapped. Presence is that open hand. It allows love to grow naturally. Control is the clenched fist, and eventually love suffocates under that pressure. When you focus on presence, you stop needing constant reassurance. You no longer look for hidden meanings in every text or delay. You don't spend hours replaying conversations to see what was really meant. Instead, you show up with openness. You give attention without expectation. You create memories without constantly measuring how long they will last. That is where love feels most alive, when it is not being managed, but experienced. Control is about fear of loss. Presence is about gratitude for what is here. When you are grateful, you savor love. You see every laugh, every hug, every moment of connection as something precious. You are no longer looking ahead to how it might end because you are too busy appreciating what you already have. That mindset not only deepens your connection, but also makes your partner feel safe, seen, and free to be themselves. Love cannot survive inside the walls of suspicion and endless monitoring, but it flourishes in the space of trust, where both people can just be. Presence is the soil where love grows. Control is the cage that kills it. The choice is always yours, whether to suffocate love with fear or let it thrive with presence. Overthinking in love is almost always rooted in fear. Fear is the hidden engine driving the constant questions, the restless nights, the endless mental spirals. It's not that you actually need to know why your partner said something in a certain tone or why they didn't text you back right away. It's that deep down, you are afraid. Afraid they might stop loving you, afraid they might not be enough, afraid that one day they will leave and you will be left alone. Fear disguises itself as analysis, as logic, as being careful, but really it is just insecurity dressed up as caution. When fear drives your mind, every small detail turns into a threat. A short answer becomes a sign of distance. A busy day without communication becomes proof of fading love. A moment of quiet becomes evidence that something is wrong. Your brain, fueled by fear, becomes a master of creating stories that don't exist. It wants to prepare you for the worst, so it convinces you the worst is already happening. And the tragic part is, the more you listen to those fearful thoughts, the more they shape how you act toward your partner. You become suspicious, needy, or withdrawn. You push for answers, demand reassurance, or create drama where there was none. Slowly, fear ends up creating the very problems you were afraid of in the first place. The truth is, fear is not about your partner at all. It's about you. It comes from old wounds, past heartbreaks, and moments where you felt abandoned or rejected. Your brain remembers those experiences and tries to keep you safe by overthinking every possibility so you won't be hurt again. But that safety mechanism backfires in love. Instead of protecting you, it destroys your ability to enjoy what you have. You cannot love freely when you are ruled by fear, because fear makes you doubt, question, and resist trust. If you want to break free from overthinking, you must face the fear at its root. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Is it being abandoned, being betrayed, or realizing I'm not enough? Once you name the fear, you see it for what it is, a feeling, not a fact. That awareness alone weakens its grip, because fear thrives in the shadows, but it loses power when you shine light on it. Love requires courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. You cannot wait for fear to vanish before you love fully, because it never will. Instead, you must choose to love while fear whispers in the background, refusing to let it control your actions. Overthinking ends not when fear disappears, but when you stop giving fear the steering wheel of your relationship. Love is not ownership, it's appreciation. Many people fall into the trap of thinking that once they are in a relationship, their partner somehow belongs to them. They start to expect constant reassurance, constant availability, and constant alignment with their own desires. But love was never meant to be a possession. It is not a contract where you control another person's actions, thoughts, or choices. Real love is a gift, and gifts are to be cherished, not claimed. The moment you treat love as something you own, you lose the ability to truly appreciate it. When you think you own love, you feel entitled to it. If your partner is busy, you feel neglected. If they want space, you feel rejected. If they make an independent decision, you feel threatened. This mindset breeds insecurity because you are constantly trying to hold on to something that was never meant to be held so tightly. But when you shift your perspective to appreciation, everything changes. Instead of demanding, you begin to value. Instead of controlling, you begin to celebrate. Every moment of connection becomes precious, not because it is guaranteed forever, but because it is beautiful right now. Think about the difference between owning and appreciating a flower. If you own it, you may pick it, place it in a vase, and eventually watch it wither. But if you appreciate it, you enjoy its beauty while it grows without needing to trap it or control it. Love works the same way. When you treat it as ownership, you try to control it, and eventually it loses its natural beauty. When you appreciate it, you let it bloom freely, and that freedom is what makes it thrive. This shift in mindset is also what relieves overthinking. When you see love as ownership, your mind constantly worries about losing it, as if someone could take away what's yours. That anxiety fuels endless questions and scenarios, but when you see love as appreciation, there is no ownership to lose. There is only an experience to enjoy. Even if the relationship ended tomorrow, the moments of love you shared would remain meaningful. That realization gives you peace. Appreciation also makes you a better partner. When you value someone without trying to possess them, they feel seen, respected, and free. That kind of energy deepens love instead of suffocating it. Your partner feels like they can be themselves without fear of judgment or control. They don't feel pressure to constantly prove their love because you already appreciate the love they give naturally. At its core, appreciation is gratitude. It is waking up each day and saying, I don't have to have this love, but I get to experience it. That mindset brings joy, lightness, and depth into your relationship. Ownership says, this is mine and it must stay. Appreciation says, this is here and I am grateful. One suffocates love, the other allows it to grow. Communication ends overthinking. Most of the spirals that consume your mind exist only because you keep them locked inside. You feel something, you sense something, you imagine something, but instead of expressing it openly, you allow your brain to run wild with assumptions. The silence between you and your partner becomes filled with your own fears, doubts, and invented stories. That gap between what you feel and what you express is where overthinking is born, and the only way to close that gap is through honest communication. When you overthink, you live in interpretations rather than reality. You assume your partner's short response means disinterest, when in truth, they might just be tired. You believe their request for space means rejection, when it could simply mean they need time to recharge. Without communication, you turn every small behavior into evidence of something bigger, but when you ask directly, the storm settles. A simple, hey, you seemed quiet earlier, is everything okay? Replaces hours of mental chaos with clarity. Communication is powerful because it grounds you in truth. Overthinking is fueled by uncertainty, and uncertainty grows in silence. By speaking openly, you bring light into the shadows where fear hides. You give your partner the chance to explain, to reassure, to connect. More importantly, you remind yourself that love is not about reading minds, but about building understanding. Nobody can know what you're feeling unless you share it, and you cannot know what your partner is feeling unless you ask. The key to communication is not interrogation, but openness. Overthinking often makes you approach your partner with suspicion or accusation, which creates distance. True communication means sharing vulnerably without blame. Instead of saying, you don't care about me anymore, you can say, sometimes when you're quiet, I start to feel insecure. This shifts the conversation from attack to connection. It invites your partner in rather than pushing them away. Honest communication also builds trust. The more you practice expressing yourself without fear, the more your partner learns that you are safe to open up to as well. That exchange deepens intimacy because real closeness is not built on guessing each other's feelings, but on speaking them openly. Overthinking isolates you in your own mind, but communication creates a bridge that brings both of you closer. Overthinking convinces you that silence is safer, that holding back will protect you from being judged or misunderstood. But silence rarely protects, it poisons. It allows doubts to multiply until they become heavier than the love itself. Choosing communication may feel risky in the moment, but it always clears the air faster than endless mental spirals. It transforms assumptions into understanding, insecurity into reassurance, and distance into connection. Overthinking cannot survive where openness exists, because the truth will always calm the noise that fear creates. Love requires courage over certainty. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because the human heart craves guarantees. We want to know for sure that the person we love will stay, that they will never hurt us, that the story will end the way we dream it will. But love doesn't come with contracts or promises carved in stone. It comes with risk. And that risk often feels unbearable when your mind longs for security. Overthinking is the mind's desperate attempt to create certainty where none exists, to fill in the unknowns with predictions and scenarios. Yet the irony is that the more you chase certainty, the more you miss the beauty of what is actually happening in the present. Courage is the opposite of this need for control. Courage says, I know this might not last forever, but I will give my heart anyway. Courage says, I know I could get hurt, but the experience of love is worth the risk. Courage allows you to step into the unknown with openness rather than fear. Without it, love becomes shallow, restrained, and full of suspicion. With it, love becomes alive, vibrant, and meaningful. Think of the greatest experiences of your life. None of them were guaranteed before you took the leap. You didn't know if that friendship would last when you first trusted someone. You didn't know if that job would work out before you applied. You didn't know if you'd succeed when you first chased a dream. Yet the willingness to step forward despite uncertainty is what gave those experiences value. Love works the same way. Its beauty comes from the fact that it is uncertain, that every moment is a choice, not a guarantee. When you demand certainty in love, you strangle it. You start testing your partner, seeking constant reassurance, or replaying every interaction to confirm that things are safe. But this safety is an illusion, because love will never feel safe if you are unwilling to take risks. Courage is what allows you to stop asking for proof and start offering trust. It allows you to stop analyzing outcomes and start creating moments. Courage also shifts your focus from fear of loss to joy of experience. Instead of asking, what if this ends, you begin asking, what if this becomes the best chapter of my life? That question creates excitement rather than anxiety. It gives you permission to fully embrace what is here without constantly bracing for what could go wrong. And even if the love doesn't last forever, the courage to give yourself fully ensures that it was real, that it mattered, and that it left you with something valuable. At its core, love is not about avoiding pain, but about choosing meaning. Certainty tries to shield you from pain by keeping you closed off. Courage accepts the possibility of pain because it understands that without risk, there can be no depth. Overthinking dies when you choose courage, because courage no longer needs to predict the ending. It simply trusts that love is worth living while it lasts.